Good morning, everyone. Kendall Farnham here at India Hook United Methodist Church with stories for today. I'm doing this on February 27th, Saturday morning, and coming up on Tuesday, March 2nd, is the birthday of Dr. Seuss, who I hope a lot of you have heard stories and books from before. And he was born in, I believe it was 1904, so a long time ago, and he died 1991 maybe? I forgot to note that date, but anyway, Dr. Seuss, his real name was Theodore Geisel, but we are going to read books by Dr. Seuss today in honor of his birthday. So, starting out today with Horton, Here's a Who. And I do like Dr. Seuss very much, and I hope you do too. Here we go. On the 15th of May, in the jungle of Newell, in the heat of the day, in the cool of the pool, he was splashing, enjoying the jungle's great joys, when Horton the elephant heard a small noise. So Horton stopped splashing. He looked toward the sound. That's funny, thought Horton. There's no one around. Then he heard it again, just a very faint yelp, as if some tiny person were calling for help. I'll help you, said Horton, but who are you? Where? He looked and he looked. He could see nothing there but a small speck of dust blowing past through the air. And there is our very small speck of dust. I say, murmured Horton, I've never heard tell of a small speck of dust that is able to yell. So you know what I think? Why, I think that there must be someone on top of that small speck of dust. Some sort of a creature of very small size. Too small to be seen by an elephant's eyes. Some poor little person who's shaking with fear that he'll blow in the pool. He has no way to steer. I'll just have to save him because, after all, a person's a person, no matter how small. So, gently and using the greatest of care, the elephant stretched his great trunk through the air, and he lifted the dust speck and carried it over, and placed it down safe on a very soft clover. Humph! Humphed a voice. 'Twas a sour kangaroo. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, Humph! too. Why, that speck is as small as the head of a pin. A person on that? Why, there never has been. Believe me, said Horton, I tell you sincerely, my ears are quite keen, and I heard him quite clearly. I know there's a person down there, and what's more, quite likely there's two, even three, even four. Quite likely a family, for all that we know, a family with children just starting to grow. So please, Horton said, as a favor to me, try not to disturb them. Just please let them be. I think you're a fool, laughed the sour kangaroo. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, Me too! You're the biggest blamed fool in the jungle of Newell! And the kangaroos plunged in the cool of the pool. What terrible splashing, the elephant frowned. I can't let my very small persons get drowned. I've got to protect them. I'm bigger than they. So he plucked up the clover and hustled away. Through the high jungle treetops, the news quickly spread. He talks to a dust speck. He's out of his head. Just look at him walk with that speck on that flower. And Horton walked, worrying, almost an hour. Should I put this speck down? Horton thought with alarm. If I do, these small persons may come to great harm. I can't put it down, and I won't. After all, a person's a person, no matter how small. Then Horton stopped walking. The speck voice was talking. The voice was so faint he could just barely hear it. Speak up, please, said Horton. He put his ear near it. My friend, came the voice, you're a very fine friend. You've helped all us folks on this dust speck no end. You've saved all our houses, our ceilings and floors. You've saved all our churches and grocery stores. You mean, Horton gasped, you have buildings there too? Oh, yes, piped the voice. We most certainly do. Yeah, I know, called the voice. I'm too small to be seen, but I'm mayor of a town that was friendly and clean. Our buildings to you would seem terribly small, but to us who aren't big, they are wonderfully tall. My town is called Whoville, for I am a Who. and we whos are all thankful and grateful to you." And Horton called back to the mayor of the town, "You're safe now. Don't worry. I won't let you down." But just as he spoke to the mayor of the speck, 3 big jungle monkeys climbed up Horton's neck. The Wickersham brothers came shouting, "What rot! This elephant's talking to whos who are not. There aren't any whos, and they don't have a mayor, and we're going to stop all this nonsense, so there." They snatched Horton's clover. They carried it off to a black-bottomed eagle named Vladikoff, a mighty strong eagle of very swift wing, and they said, "Will you kindly get rid of this thing?" And before the poor elephant even could speak, that eagle flew off with the flower in his beak. All that late afternoon and far into the night, that black-bottomed bird flapped his wings in fast flight, while Horton chased after with groans over stones that tattered his toenails and battered his bones, and begged, "Please don't harm all my little folks who have as much right to live as us bigger folks do." But far, far beyond him that eagle kept flapping, and over his shoulder called back, "Quit your yapping! I'll fly the night through. I'm a bird, I don't mind it, and I'll hide this tomorrow where you'll never find it." And at 6:56 the next morning he did it. It sure was a terrible place that he hid it. He let that small clover drop somewhere inside of a great patch of clovers 100 miles wide. "Find that," sneered the bird, "but I think you will fail." And he left with a flip of his black-bottomed tail. "I'll find it," cried Horton. "I'll find it or bust. I shall find my friends on my small speck of dust." And clover by clover by clover with care, he picked up and searched them and called, "Are you there?" But clover by clover by clover he found that the one that he sought for was just not around. And by noon poor old Horton, more dead than alive, had picked, searched, and piled up 9,005. Then on through the afternoon, hour after hour, till he found them at last on the 3,000,000th flower. "My friends," cried the elephant, "tell me, do tell, are you safe? Are you sound? Are you whole? Are you well?" From down on the speck came the voice of the mayor. "We really had trouble, much more than our share. When that black-bottomed birdie let go and we dropped, we landed so hard that our clocks have all stopped. Our teapots are broken, our rocking chairs smashed, and our bicycle tires all blew up when we crashed. So Horton, please," pleaded that voice of the mayor's, "will you stick by us whos while we're making repairs?" "Of course," Horton answered, "of course I will stick. I'll stick by you small folks through thin and through thick." "Humph," humped a voice. "For almost 2 days you've run wild and insisted on chatting with persons who've never existed. Such carryings on in our peaceable jungle. We've had quite enough of your bellowing bungle, and I'm here to state," snapped the big kangaroo, "that your silly nonsensical game is all through." And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me too!" With the help of the Wickershams, brothers and dozens, and of Wickersham uncles and Wickersham cousins, and Wickersham in-laws, whose help I've engaged, you're going to be roped, and you're going to be caged. And as for your dust speck, ha! That we shall boil in a hot steaming kettle of hazelnut oil. "Boil it!" gasped Horton. "No, that you can't do. It's all full of persons. They'll prove it to you." The elephant smiled. That was clear as a bell. "You kangaroos surely heard that very well." Oops, sorry. "All I heard," snapped the big kangaroo, "was the breeze, and the faint sound of wind through the far distant trees. I heard no small voices, and you didn't either." And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me neither." "Grab him," they shouted, "and cage the big dope. Lasso his stomach with 10 miles of rope. Tie the knots tight so he'll never shake loose. Then dunk that dumb speck in the beetle nut juice." Horton fought back with great vigor and vim, but the Wickersham gang was too many for him. They beat him, they mauled him, they started to haul him into his cage, but he managed to call to the mayor, "Don't give up! I believe in you all! A person's a person, no matter how small. And you very small persons will not have to die if you make yourselves heard. So come on now, and try!" The mayor grabbed a tom-tom. He started to smack it, and all over Whoville they whooped up a racket. They rattled tin kettles, they beat on brass pans, on garbage pail tops and old cranberry cans. They blew on bazookas and blasted great toots on clarinets, oompas and boompas and flutes. Great gusts of loud racket rang high through the air. They rattled and shook the whole sky, and the mayor called up through the howling mad hullabaloo, "Hey, Horton, how's this? Is our sound coming through?" And Horton called back, "I can hear you just fine, but the kangaroo's ears aren't as strong quite as mine. They don't hear a thing. Are you sure all your boys are doing their best? Are they all making noise? Are you sure every who down in Whoville is working? Quick, look through your town. Is there anyone shirking?" Through the town rushed the mayor from the east to the west, but everyone seemed to be doing his best. Everyone seemed to be yapping or yipping. Everyone seemed to be beeping or bipping. But it wasn't enough, all this ruckus and roar. He had to find someone to help him make more. He raced through each building. He searched floor to floor. And just as he felt he was getting nowhere and almost about to give up in despair, he suddenly burst through a door, and that mayor discovered one shirker, quite hidden away in the Fairfax apartments, apartment 12J. A very small shirker named Jojo was standing, just standing and bouncing a yo-yo, not making a sound, not a yip, not a chirp, and the mayor rushed inside and he grabbed the young twerp. And he climbed with the lad up the Eiffelberg Tower. "This," cried the mayor, "is your town's darkest hour. This time for all who have blood that is red to come to the aid of their country," he said. "We've got to make noises in greater amounts, so open your mouth, lad, for every voice counts." Thus he spoke as he climbed. When they got to the top, the lad cleared his throat and he shouted out, "Yop!" And that yop, that one small extra yop, put it over. Finally, at last, from that speck on that clover, their voices were heard. They rang out clear and clean, and the elephant smiled. "Do you see what I mean? They prove they are persons, no matter how small, and their whole world was saved by the smallest of all." "How true, yes, how true," said the big kangaroo. "And from now on, you know what I'm going to do? From now on, I'm going to protect them with you." And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, "Me too. From sun in the summer, from rain when it's fallish, I'm going to protect them, no matter how smallish." So there we are. Horton heard the who and insisted that they were there, and finally convinced the kangaroos and proved it to them. All right, let's see here. Well, this seems appropriate for celebrating Dr. Seuss's birthday, and I don't think I've ever read this book. It's called Happy Birthday to You. So let's see what Dr. Seuss has to say about birthdays. "I wish we could do what they do in Catrue. They sure know how to say happy birthday to you. In Catrue, every year on the day you were born, they start the day right in on the bright early morn, when the birthday honker hikes high up Mount Zorn and lets loose a big blast on the big birthday horn. And the voice of the horn calls out loud as it plays, 'Wake up, for today is your day of all days.'" That is a fairly large horn, I've got to say. Then, the moment the horn's happy honk is heard, comes a fluttering flap, and then comes the bird, the great birthday bird. And so far as I know, Catrue is the only place birthday birds grow. This bird has a brain. He's most beautifully brained, with the brainiest bird brain that's ever been trained. He was trained by the most splendid club in this nation, the Catrue Happy Birthday Association. And whether your name is Pete, Polly, or Paul, when your birthday comes around, he's in charge of it all. Whether your name is Nate, Nellie, or Ned, he knows your address and he heads for your bed. You hear a soft swoosh in the brightening sky. You are not all awake, but you open one eye. Yikes. Then over the housetops and trees of Catrue, you see that bird coming. To you, just to you. That bird pops right in. You are up on your feet. You jump to the window. You meet and you greet with the secret true birthday high sign and shake that only good people with birthdays may make. You do it just so, with each finger and toe. Then the bird says, "Come on, brush your teeth and let's go. It's your day of all days. It's the best of the best. So don't waste a minute. Hop to it. Get dressed." And 5 minutes later, you're having a snack on your way out of town on a smorgasbord's back. "Today," laughs the bird, "eat whatever you want. Today no one tells you can't or you shan't. And today you don't have to be tidy or neat. If you wish, you may eat with both hands and both feet. So get in there and munch. Have a big muncharoo. Today is your birthday. Today you are you." If we didn't have birthdays, you wouldn't be you. If you'd never been born, well, then what would you do? If you'd never been... Excuse me, I'm reading the same line again. There we go. If you'd never been born, well, then what would you be? You might be a fish or a toad in a tree. You might be a doorknob or 3 baked potatoes. You might be a bag full of hard green tomatoes. Or worse than all that, why, you might be a wasn't. A wasn't has no fun at all. No, he doesn't. A wasn't just isn't. He just isn't present. But you are you. And now isn't that pleasant? So we'll go to the top of the toppest blue space, the official Catrue birthday sounding off place. Come on, open your mouth and sound off at the sky. Shout loud at the top of your voice, "I am I! Me! I am I! And I may not know why, but I know that I like it. 3 cheers! I am I!" And now, on this day of all days in Catrue, the association has built just for you a railway with very particular boats that are pulled through the air by funicular goats. These goats never slip, never trip, never bungle. They'll take us down fast to the birthday flower jungle. The best sniffing flowers that anyone grows, we have grown to be sniffed by your own private nose. They smell like licorice and cheese. Send 40 hoobubs up the trees to snip with snippers, nip with nippers, clip and clop with clapping clippers, snip and snop with snipping snoppers, all for you, the hoobubs clip. Happy birthday, Nop and Nip. Then pile the wondrous smelling stacks on 50 hippoheimers' backs. They'll take those flowers all home for you. You can keep the hippoheimers too. While this is done, I've got a hunch. It's time to eat our birthday lunch. For birthday luncheons, as a rule, we serve hot dogs rolled on a spool. So stuff and stuff and stuff and stuff and stuff until you've had enough. Now, of course, we're all mustard, so one of the rules is to wash it all off in the mustard-off pools, which are very fine warm water mountaintop tubs, which were built just for this by the mustard-off clubs. Then out of the water, sing while you dry. Sing loud, "I am lucky." Sing loud, "I am I." If you'd never been born, that you might be an isn't. And isn't has no fun at all. No, he disn't. He never has birthdays, and that isn't pleasant. You have to be born or you don't get a present. A present, aha! Now what kind shall I give? Why, the kind you'll remember, as long as you live. Would you like a fine pet? Well, that's just what you'll get. I'll get you the fanciest pet ever yet. As you see, we have here in the heart of our nation the official Catrue birthday pet reservation. From east of the eastest to west of the westest. We've searched the whole world just to bring you the bestest. They come in all sizes, small, medium, tall. If you wish, I will find you the tallest of all. To find who's the tallest, we start with the smallest. We start with the smallest, then what do? We line them all up, back to back, 2 by 2. Taller and taller, and when we are through, we will find one who's taller than who. But you have to be smart and keep watching their feet, because sometimes they stand on their tiptoes and cheat. And so from the smaller, we stack them up taller and taller and taller and taller and taller. And now, here's the one who is taller than aller. He's yours, he's all yours. He's the very top tallest. I know you'll enjoy him, the tallest of allest. I'll have him shipped home to you, birthday express. That costs quite a lot, but I couldn't care less. Today is your birthday. Today you are you. So what if it costs me 1,000 or 2? Today is your birthday. You get what you wish. You also might like a nice time-telling fish. So I'll send Diver Gets and I'll send Diver Gets deep under the sea in their undersea kits. In all the wide world, there are no better pets than a time-telling fish that gets. But speaking of time, why, good gracious alive! That time-telling fish says it's 4:45. I had no idea it was getting so late. We have to get going. We have a big date. And so, as the sunset burns red in the west, comes the night of the day of the best of the best. The night of all nights in Catrue. So, according to rule, what we usually do is saddle up 2 hooded klopfers named Alice and gallop like mad to the birthday Pal Alice. Your big birthday party soon starts to begin in the finest Pal Alice you've ever been in. Up there, I think, is the Pal Alice. Far, far away. They gotta get to it. Now, this birthday Pal Alice, as soon you will see, has exactly 9,403 rooms to play games in, 12 halls for brass bands, not counting the 53 hamburger stands. And besides all of that, there are 65 rooms just for keeping the sweeping up afterwards brooms. Because after your party, as well you may guess, it will take 20 days just to sweep up the mess. First, we're greeted by drummers who drum as they come, and next come the strummers who strum as they come, and the drummers who drum and the strummers who strum are followed by zummers who come as they zum. Just look at those zummers, they're kind of like plumbers. They come along humming with heads in their plumbing, and that makes the music that zummers call zumming. And all of this beautiful zumming and humming and plumbing and strumming and drumming and coming, all of it, all is for you. Look! Dr. Daring's singing herrings. Daring's singing spelling herrings. See what Daring's herrings do. They sing and spell it. All for you. And here comes your cake. Cooked by Snookers and Snookers, the official Catrue Happy Birthday Cake cookers. And Snookers, I'm happy to say, are the only cake cookers who cook cakes today made of guaranteed, certified strictly grade A, peppermint cucumber sausage paste butter, and the world's finest cake slicers, Dutter and Dutter, with hatchets aflutter, high up on the poop deck stand ready to cut her. My goodness. Today you are you, that is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. Shout loud, I am lucky to be what I am. Thank goodness I'm not just a clam or a ham or a dusty old jar of sour gooseberry jam. I am what I am. That's a great thing to be. If I say so myself, happy birthday to me. Now, by horseback and birdback and heiferback too, come your friends, all your friends from all over Catrue, and the birthday Pal Alice heats up with hot friends, and your party goes on and on, till it ends. When it ends, you're much happier, richer and fatter, and the bird flies you home on a very soft platter. So that's what the birthday bird does in Catrue. And I wish I could do all these great things for you. That is a heck of a birthday. My goodness. Isn't that exciting? All right, let's see here. We have a few minutes left. Let's see which of these we might be able to get through here. All right, here we go. This story is called Fidwick, the Big-Hearted Moose. This will be our last one. There's a picture of Fidwick out and about. And here we go. Up at Lake Winnebago, the far northern shore, lives a huge herd of moose, about 60 or more, and they all go around in a big happy bunch, looking for nice, tender moose moss to munch. Up at Lake Winnebago, one day they were lunching, just strolling along and enjoying their munching, for the moose moss that day was especially fine, when it happened that Fidwick, the last moose in line, saw a bingle bug sitting. The bug called out, "Hey! It's such a long road and it's such a hot day. Would you mind if I rode on your horns for a way?" "Of course not," smiled Fidwick, the big-hearted moose. "I'm happy my antlers can be of some use. There's room there to spare, and I'm happy to share. Be my guest, and I hope that you're comfortable there." So the bingle bug picked out a nice easy seat, and the moose went on looking for moose moss to eat. Well, an hour or so later, the bug heard a squeak, and he heard the small voice of a tree spider speak. "I say," said the spider, "you've got a fine place. That moose seems quite friendly, has such a nice face. If I got on too, do you think he would mind?" "Hop aboard," laughed the bug, "and I think that you'll find that the moose won't object. He's the big-hearted kind." "I accept," said the spider, with joy and delight, and he started a web on the horn to the right. While the spider was spinning, he heard a gay song, and a fresh little zinnizu bird came along. He stopped, and he stared, and he chirped, "Well, well, well, what a smart place to build, what a great place to dwell. I've been living on trees ever since I was born, but here's something new. Why not live in a horn? If there's room there for two, then there's room there for three. There's plenty of room," laughed the bug, "and it's free." Fidwick stopped walking. What was all that talking? These guests had caught Fidwick the moose unawares. "Hey!" he called out. "What goes on there upstairs?" "Just building a nest, sir," the zinnizu said, and began yanking hairs out of poor Fidwick's head, and he plucked out exactly 204. "Don't worry," he laughed, "you can always grow more." Then he dozed off to sleep in his fine moose hair nest. "This bird," murmured Fidwick, "is sort of a pest. But I'm a good sport, so I'll just let him rest, for a host, after above all, must be nice to his guest." Besides, now it's getting quite late in the day, and surely tomorrow they'll all go away. But alas, the next morning, the sun's early light brought to Fidwick's sad eyes a most unwelcome sight. "Meet my wife," said the bird. "I was married last night, and perhaps, by the way, I should mention to you that her uncle is coming to live with us too. You're a very fine host, so I knew you'd be willing." Then the uncle, a woodpecker, started in drilling. All Fidwick's friends shouted, "Get rid of those pests!" "I would, but I can't," sobbed poor Fidwick. "They're guests." "Guests indeed," his friends answered, and all of them frowned. "If those are your guests, we don't want you around. You can't stay with us because you're just not our sort." And they all turned their backs and walked off with a snort. Oh dear. This is getting a little sad. Now the big friendless moose walked alone and forlorn with 4 great big woodpecker holes in his horn. "What holes?" whispered Herman, a squirrel who spied him. "What holes to hide nuts in? Mind if I tried 'em?" "They're yours," called the woodpecker. "Get right inside 'em. This big-hearted moose runs a public hotel. Bring your nuts, bring your wife, bring your children as well." So the whole squirrel family jumped on, pell-mell. And the very next thing the poor animal knew, a bobcat and turtle were living there too. Now, what was the big-hearted moose going to do? Well, what would you do if it happened to you? You couldn't say scat, because that wouldn't be right. You couldn't shout scram, because that isn't polite. A host has to put up with all kinds of pests, for a host, above all, must be nice to his guests. So you'd try hard to smile, and you'd try to look sweet, and you'd go right on looking for moose moss to eat. But now it was winter, and that wasn't easy, for moose moss gets scarce when the weather gets freezy. The food was soon gone on the cold northern shore of Lake Winnebago. There just was no more, and all Fidwick's friends swam away in a bunch to the south of the lake, where there's moose moss to munch. He watched the herd leaving, and then Fidwick knew he'd starve if he stayed here. He'd have to go too. He stepped in the water. Then, oh, what a fuss. "Stop!" screamed his guests. "You can't do this to us. Those horns are our home, and you've no right to take our home to the far distant side of the lake." "Be fair," Fidwick begged with a lump in his throat. "We're fair," said the bug. "We'll decide this by vote. All those in favor of going say aye. All those in favor of staying say nay." "Aye!" shouted Fidwick. But when he was done, "Nay!" they all yelled. He lost, 11-1. "We win!" screamed the guests, "by a very large score," and poor starving Fidwick climbed back on the shore. Then do you know what those pests did? They asked in some more. They asked in a fox who jumped in from the trees. They asked in some mice, and they asked in some fleas. They asked a big bear in, and then, if you please, came a swarm of 362 bees. Poor Fidwick sank down with a groan to his knees, and then came something that made his heart freeze. Bullets came zinging right past Fidwick's face. Guns were bang-binging all over the place. "Get that moose! Get that moose!" Fidwick heard a voice call. Fire again and again and shoot straight, one and all. We must get his head for the Harvard Club wall. Fidwick took to his heels with that load on his head. With 500 pounds on his horns, the moose fled. He could have run faster without all those pests, but a host, above all, must be nice to his guests. Up canyon, off cliff, over wild rocky trail, with bullets bouncing around him like hail, up gully, through gulch, and down slippery sluice, with his hard-hearted guests, raced the soft-hearted moose. Then finally they had him. Because of those pests, he had run out of luck. Because of those guests on his horns, he was stuck. He gasped, he felt faint, and the whole world grew fuzzy. Fidwick was finished completely. Or was he? Finished? Not Fidwick, decidedly not. It's true he was in a most terrible spot, but now he remembered a thing he'd forgot. A wonderful something that happens each year to the horns of all moose and the horns of all deer. Today was the day, Fidwick happened to know. That old horns come off so that new ones can grow. And he called to the pests on his horns as he threw them. You wanted my horns, now you're quite welcome to them. Keep them, they're yours. As for me, I shall take myself to that far distant side of the lake. And he swam Winnebago and found his old bunch and arrived just in time for a wonderful lunch at the south of the lake where there's moose moss to munch. His old horns today are where you knew they would be. His guests are still on them, all stuffed as they should be. And that is the end of Fidwick. And that is very much a story of being taken advantage of. Fidwick very nicely asked that first was a bug to ride, and then everyone else came on, and it just wasn't working well for Fidwick at all. That is all for today. I wish you a wonderful weekend. A little gray out, but not raining today on Saturday, so hopefully you can get maybe a little outside time. Be safe, be well, remember that you are loved, and I'll hope to see you again next time. Bye.